You're listening to Tipped Off, where leaders across the service industry share insights on operations, tech, and team success, powered by TipHaus.
Thank you, everyone, for listening today. I am incredibly honored to have Patrick from Ivar's. If you don't know, a Washington State staple, someone that I near and dear to the heart of TipHaus, has been a great customer. And first and foremost, Patrick, I would love for you to introduce yourself and tell us just a little bit about Ivar's and the growth in the state of Washington, and of course, your role over there as a Senior Innovation and Recruitment Director.
Well, thank you for having me. My name is Patrick Yearout. I've worked for Ivar's for 26 years now. Ivar's has been around a lot longer than I've been here. We started back in 1938. We're founded by a gentleman by the name of Ivar Haglund. My role changes a lot day to day, depending on the time of the year. In the springtime, it's a lot on recruiting. Quite a few people, especially because with baseball season, hiring all the people for the two different baseball teams. But Seattle is just a place where we get most of our visitors in the summer. There's very few people that are planning a visit to Seattle in late January. It's just not something that people are dreaming of. They come between May and they come, in September, and they come to see a Mariners game or to take a cruise ship up to Alaska or just to enjoy the nice weather. It's 75 degrees and not a lot of humidity and all the water and the mountains. And that's when our restaurants are busy. And we do all of our hiring and, recruiting, everything. About 70 to 75% of the people that we hire every year are between March, April, May, and June. That time of the year, it's mostly about recruiting for me. And then other times of the year, other things are going on.
I love it, Patrick. And that is an expansive portfolio. Obviously, if you have been to Seattle, you have seen Ivar's, and you now know that they have quite a few more locations and different concepts that you can visit. And of course, still a staple there on the waterfront, which I'd love to get to. But, Patrick, let's dive in a little bit into, the thick of some items. Lots and lots of conversations around minimum wage right now. With rising minimum wages, obviously Seattle has an even further minimum wage than just state level. Challenging, certainly, and something I know that you're probably rise to the occasion on numerous times. But tell me, when you're looking at strategies to implement, whether you implement them this year or you're looking forward to 2026, what are you looking at to stay competitive, to manage those labor costs? How do you kind of view it all?
It's obviously very important to control labor costs. You don't want to have 10 people or 15 people standing around when there's nothing to do, no food to prep or no guests in the restaurant. Just like any other restaurant, we want to make sure that we're doing the best that we can with our scheduling. But I think there comes a point where, you can only cut so much, and you don't want to necessarily cut the human element out of hospitality. You don't want to get down to the point where you only have, 3 or 4 people working and hundreds of guests in the restaurant. You don't want to go off into that other spectrum of things. So when we look at things in terms of controlling labor or managing labor costs, for us, it's always been more about controlling turnover and controlling turnover costs, because that part of the equation can add up so quickly. It's funny, I just was in a webinar last week or the week before from Black Box Intelligence, which is a wonderful organization. They were going through costs of turnover, and it was $2,700 in hard costs every time you lose an hourly employee in the restaurant industry. It was about $12,000 every time you lose a manager, and about $18,000 every time you lose a general manager. And that was just in the hard costs, the separation costs that you go through. That doesn't include the indirect costs like productivity you lose or the institutional knowledge that walks out the door with that employee or that manager, and of course, the impact on guest service. So the actual cost when you add everything up is quite a bit higher. When it comes to controlling labor costs or managing, you can make such a much bigger impact when you look at things like, what can we do to make the workplace that we have more desirable for employees? What can we do to make our workplaces safer and have more attractive benefits and offer opportunities for growth for our employees so that they'll want to stick around longer and prevent that turnover? So I think that's the perspective we've always kind of taken when it comes to controlling labor. Not that we don't, like,
Sure.
on a day like today when it's pouring down rain, yes, we will, you know, try to get people or ask if anybody's interested in going home, because it's just going to be slow. That is a much smaller part of what we do compared to controlling turnover and trying to improve the tenure and the length of time that people stay with us.
I love that. And for those listening, being recorded on November 13th, though, you could probably say it'll be pouring rain, between now and another few months from now, right? So
Yes,
I
definitely.
think that's incredible, though. And I love Black Box Intelligence is a great group, unprompted shout out to them. They are incredible with their analytics. But paying attention, the hard costs, the indirect costs that go with it, and how, we often will get lost in minimum wage conversations only and not pay attention to those elements, right? And I love that your approach says, hey, we're going to try to manage that. We're going to handle that as best as we can. But there are proactive solutions we can do as well. And that takes, a lot of foresight, a lot of intelligence, a lot of years running and being in the operation side of it. So that is awesome. And thank you for sharing that with us, Patrick. Tell me, as you look at the lowering turnover, obviously part of that is going to be largely driven, I'd imagine, around training, onboarding processes, make sure they're successful from the start, or at least having the chance to be successful, of course, right? We can't dictate everything, but we can give them opportunities for success. So what do you look at, when you're adapting training and onboarding processes? How are you trying to make sure that they have the greatest chance to succeed over there?
Well, one tool that we've recently started using is a service called GoHappy, and it allows us to, from either on the company-wide level or on a store level, to send text messages directly to employees. Previously, if we had a message that we wanted to get out to everybody, most of the time we'd have to email the restaurants and, cross our fingers that the manager would read it and the manager would print it out and the manager would post it next to the schedule or whatever. And that, again, fingers crossed that the employees would read it, and a lot of times those messages just didn't get across. And whether it was something about new benefits or just upcoming announcements or, really important things, it's always hard to get those messages across. Maybe not so much in a smaller restaurant like one of our quick service restaurants, but certainly in full service where 100 people working in the building.
Sure.
GoHappy allows us to send those messages directly to the employees, and elements or tools within GoHappy are these engagement surveys. So as a part of onboarding, 15 days after somebody is hired with us, and then again in 30 days and then 60 days, we send a text survey to employees to check in on them, to, ask them just some basic questions on, how are they fitting in with the team? Are they feeling like they're being supportive? Do they have all the tools that they need to be successful? They're very short, but the goal is just to find out if there's anything that we can do additionally to help them. And I say this as I think we do have great managers. Our managers do a great job connecting with the employees and making sure that everybody is taken care of to the best of their abilities. But again, going back to what I was saying before about springtime, we bring in a lot of people in the springtime. If you think about, especially sports and entertainment, um, when you're opening up the baseball stadium on that first day, it's not like the first day is slow. If you've been to opening day at a baseball stadium, it's packed. It's full of people. And so you as an employee, you're getting to the stadium, you're getting there with 50,000 other people and all the other new workers, and the managers are not only busy with all their staff members, but they're working with equipment that has been shut off for 6 months. So they've got to get, I'll make sure all the fryers are working, make sure the beer taps are working. And so the managers are a little bit, you know, occupied. And so as awesome as they are, they just can't be everywhere at once. And so we use this as a tool to help supplement the onboarding process, to just check in with the employees and make sure that they're doing okay. And if there's anything else that we can do to support them and make sure that they're not getting lost in the shuffle. If they do have a problem or a complaint or something is not right, we reach out to them or we alert their director of operations or the district manager or the general manager and let them know, hey, this person needs extra support. We want to make sure that, they get what they need so that they can feel like they are part of the team, because, we don't want to lose anybody. We've already invested, even if we've only invested a few days in them, we still want them to stick around. And so, GoHappy has been a great tool for that. We've been using them now for about a year, and we've been really, really happy with the results that we've gotten from these engagement surveys.
I love that. And there are a couple things thrown in there. First, I'll say, hopefully not 6 months that things are shut off right now. Go Mariners. Good run this year, right?
Yes.
Uh, so happy to hear on that front. But the Go Happy, I've not heard of that, but I love that you're creating a feedback loop, right? You're making
Mhm.
sure it's not just day one. You said, I believe, day 15, day 30, and day 60 were your
Right.
check-in point. And, it's the idea that a tool helps certainly, but y'all are of course following up with it. And are you taking action on that feedback? Is there natural steps or processes that, managers see that and then they have course of actions they're supposed to take? What does that look like?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. It depends on what feedback we get. But if there's a tool that's missing, a lot of times it's questions about benefits. And so when that happens, our HR director is the one who reaches out and explains everything to them. Uh, a lot of times it's questions about payroll or it's a we'll go with technical questions.
Sure.
I'm not sure how this works. Um, and it can be very confusing sometimes too. If you've worked in a regular restaurant, it's very easy to understand. I go here, I park here, I walk in, and I do
Right.
this. Working in a stadium is a completely, there's a lot of elements to where do I go, what do I do, what door do I go into, and then I go through security, and then I get here, and so there's just a lot more questions that they have to feel supported and make sure they're going to the right places and everything. So um, sometimes it's just information like that that they need. So yeah, depending on what kinds of questions or concerns that they have, one person, whoever the most appropriate person is, they will follow up that employee and make sure that they get what they need.
I love that. I love that you're giving people avenues to meet them where they are. And, we talk emails at one point were probably great, but now there's such a generational gap in restaurants, right? I mean,
Yes.
you could ask to email your frontline support and they may not even have an email address, as we found out sometimes. So
Yes.
incredible to see. Now, tell me, Patrick, obviously anyone managing even one restaurant or one concept, that's a handful, certainly. You all are managing multiple concepts, multiple restaurants as a staple of kind of the Seattle area and Washington in general. What do you see as the additional challenges when you're thinking about, okay, managing just whether it be the fish bar or acres of clams or any of these items, but then when you roll them all up into one, now you've got multiple concepts you're trying to support. So how are you making sure managers and servers stay happy and supported across all of these different avenues? Any tools or tricks out there for the listeners?
I think this goes back to what I was saying about, our managers do a great job.
Uh-huh.
I think a lot of it has to do not only with the managers who work in the restaurants, but also with the area managers or the district managers, regional directors of operation, or even the people like us who work in the office, myself, or HR manager, or the company president. When we get out into the restaurants, it is our opportunity to meet with the employees, talk to the employees, ask them how things are going, have conversations with them, learn what frustrations that they have, or just, ask them stories about how things are going. The other day, Tuesday, was Veterans Day, and Veterans Day is our second busiest day of the year. We offer a free meal to veterans. And so it turns out it's a very busy day.
Of
And
course.
so, anytime we're in the restaurants after that day, it's a good opportunity to talk to the employees about, yeah, how did it go? What stories did you hear? Because they want to tell the stories about, the different folks who came in. And so it's just an opportunity to connect with them. I think back to where we used to be when I first started, we had a district manager. This is like 2002, 2003. And he used to be very proud of something. And he would tell me this: I can walk into any of my restaurants and they'll see me coming, and the cashier will immediately run an X tape. And an X tape back in the old days with the old register, you have the register on the regular setting and you turn it to
Uh-huh.
X, and an X tape would run and it would give you a report for the day. So it'd tell you how far how much your sales you've had for the day. And it would print out a long receipt tape with all your sales and everything. So he'd say, I can walk in. They won't even have to they won't even have to talk to me. They'll just see me coming and they'll run an X tape and they'll hand it to me as I walk up to the front counter. And he was so proud of that fact. And I'm like, that's horrible that before you even say hello to them, they're handing you the sales for the day. That's what you're proud of. And to me, that was like a terrible thing. Like you might not even know their name, but you're happy that they're giving you that. And so we've come a long way since then. And it's definitely more about, again, the opportunity to connect with the front line, because they're the ones that are dealing with the guests. They know more than all of us put together. They know what's going on. And can be incredible sources of information. So when you're in the restaurants, an area manager, district manager, regional, or again, any of us from the office, spend time with them. It's not the time to hide in that back booth. It's not the time to be on your phone or on your laptop sending emails. It's your opportunity to connect with the most important people that you have in your organization. So I think that's a lesson that we've learned and that we really take to heart.
I genuinely love that. The idea of recognizing that those employees are often the only interaction guests have, right? They don't chat
Mhm.
with the regional managers, they don't chat
Right.
with HR, right? And so agreed on the idea that if you're just printing out a sales report and he's proud of that, that's an interesting one. Can I ask, and feel free to deflect if needed, but is that individual still with the company?
No, no,
Yeah.
he's not.
I was sensing there might be a theme and an answer going to that one. I
No,
love it.
he left a long time ago.
Well, fair enough, and maybe that's why there's so much more focus on the employees now, right?
Yeah.
Understanding where that goes. So, tell me, obviously, restaurant tech always a hot button. You've already mentioned a few tools and tricks that you're using, you stay on top of. But from your perspective, in your role, tell me what's the largest ROI opportunities in restaurant tech, whether for Ivers or that you see out there, even for other restaurant groups.
I think one of the things that we've kind of tiptoed into and can be a great help, again, trying not to cut out the human element, trying to assist the human element, is just the things that AI can assist you with, not necessarily replace you with, but can make you more productive. Whether it's sometimes you have a spreadsheet that's 10 miles long and you're like, oh God, I can't make heads or tails of this, but you can put it into Chat GPT and it can run through it and find what you're looking for really, really fast. We've done things like that with our guest feedback. We've put them in a download of all of our guest surveys from the past decade and put them through Chat GPT, and what complaints have come up the most. Whereas it would take us a year to read through everything, but it can analyze it so quickly and tell us, this is the most common complaint you're getting from your guests. One service that we actually use for our guest feedback, it's called Review Push.
Okay.
So anybody that comes to our website and leaves a review, if feedback internally, not something on like Yelp or Google, but comes in internally, the managers can write back to that guest, whether it's a complaint or even if it's a nice review, they can write back to the guest. And the Review Push, what it does is it takes that comment from the guest and provides sample or templates, I guess. It uses AI to create a sample response, actually 3 sample responses that the manager can pick from. And then the manager can fill in small details if they want. And, it basically helps to get the letter started.
Absolutely.
And what that does is it basically, it just saves time. The manager doesn't have to start their email from scratch every single time that they want to write back to the guest. And so they're able to respond to more guests. They're able to not have to worry so much about good grammar, good punctuation, good spacing. It's kind of done for them as a support. It doesn't replace them at all, but it just helps them be more productive. And so the manager can get back to spending more time with their employees, spending more time with their guests, making sure that, everything else is going well in the restaurants. So I see that as a wonderful use of AI in our industry.
I agree. And, if you've listened or any of the listeners out there, I say it often and I fully believe it. It's enhance, not replace, right?
Mhm.
Hospitality always needs the people.
Yes.
If I'm just going to sit and eat in silence, anything like that, I'll do that at home, right? Don't get me wrong. But when I go out, I want to interact and I want to be around there.
Right.
But I want to see managers managing and working with their staff and supporting them. I want the staff to be happy and obviously, engaging with me and make recommendations. And there's so many of these little areas where AI can drive those forward without at all replacing that human touch. So I
Right.
love that. I've not heard of that group, but yeah, I imagine that makes your managers far more likely to be able to engage with more of the guests. Tell me, when you're looking at your top performers, and it seems, you're doing very, very well to cultivate a lot of top performers over at Ivers. But tell me, what are you looking at for like programs, strategies, additional items to help boost that retention beyond pay? Pay is a cheat code, right? It's a very easy lever to manipulate. People love having good pay, but I think we often rely that, oh, well, if I could just pay them more, they'd stay. And the results say that's not always the case, right? People stay where they're respected, where they're happy, where you mentioned earlier, feel like they have upward mobility. What program strategies are you rolling out right now to make sure that your top performers are going to stay with Ivers for the foreseeable future?
Now, here's the thing. I
Yeah,
know you said beyond pay, but I really want to say pay.
fair enough. So you can
So,
start there, of course.
okay. So, and I'm not here just to say how wonderful TipHaus is, but here's what I want to say.
Sure.
And I'm going to specifically use uh, our quick service seafood restaurants as an example. So the year before, we started using TipHaus in quick service. Now, we'd always had tipping in full service before. We've had that for a long time. But until we started using TipHaus in quick service, we did not have tipping in quick service at all. It was just not something that we had done. One of our owners was not a fan of the tip jar concept. We have very strict rules about tipping in Seattle and Washington. Everything has to be done above board. And we didn't have a system to figure out how to do it. And then we started using your system 3 years ago. Now, the year before we started using your system, we hired 384 people that year for our quick service seafood restaurants. Then we started using TipHaus, and we've been using TipHaus. We added tipping to the mix. Last year, same restaurants, we hired 141 people. So
Wow.
now we've changed a few other things, but adding tipping through TipHaus, we went from 384 people hired in 1 year to 141 people in 1 year. So again, I know you keep saying beyond pay, but
Sure.
it really was tipping. Adding tipping to the mix definitely helped a lot. It's something that the employees are like, we're very, very, very happy about. We probably we get somewhere around 700 or 800 guest surveys a month
Wow.
internally from Review Push. Most of them are in quick service. We don't get as many from full service because full service gets more from their reservation system. So we get a lot of them from quick service. And we've maybe gotten, I don't know, 5 from guests saying they don't like tipping in quick service. So it's very rare. The guests are happy about it. The employees are happy about it. So, okay. So I'm not going to say pay,
Fair.
but it
But
really is
possibly
pay. Yeah. But so in second place, far, far behind everything else. I would say it's the opportunity to move up in the organization.
Sure.
We really do try to identify people who are going to be, that have an interest in it. If you look at our training journals that we have, the very first question in it is, what would you like to achieve or what would you like to contribute during your time here at Ivers? So that they could, think about where they would like to go or what they would like to do. Sometimes they don't know. They just know that they want to move up, and we can help them kind of turn that into some concrete goals. But it's really important to get them to start thinking about that right away. And if they are interested in moving up, to raise their hand and say, I am interested in becoming a shift manager or a shift leader. What do I need to do? And, we can start working with them on just simple stuff, having them sit in while the general manager does the food order or does the schedule and showing them that, or have them participate in doing an interview, little stuff just to kind of get the sense for being a part of the leadership team. And most of the people that are in our restaurants, gosh, I think at one point we were at like 85 or 90% of the people in one of the restaurant positions
Mhm.
were promoted into that position. So it's an
Incredible.
insane amount.
Yeah.
The ability to grow within the company, I think, is another reason keep people sticking around here for
Sure.
quite a long time. I mean, we're very proud of the fact that we have 2 people who have been around for more than 50 years. We have one gentleman who's
Holy wow.
well, they've both been around since 1972. one gentleman at Kent Ivers, and then one woman who is at Alki Spud, has been around since 1972. So in one of our, I've been around, like I said, I've been around for 26 years, and not in this room, but in the room next to me, we have our seniority chart.
Uh-huh.
And I'm still like 40th on the seniority chart. Like I'm still like way in the back of everybody else. So I don't even rate here. I am like still considered a newbie because 26 years is nothing. So
That's, I mean, testament to Ivers, right?
I know.
If
Yeah.
you're rocking people for 50 plus years, multiple people, I should say,
Right.
I think it says something about the brand. And I love, y'all mentioning that you're looking to elicit. Everyone wants employees that want to move up, but how many are actually putting in the work to elicit a response, right? Even if that response, I don't know what I want, but allowing people to sit in on interviews, letting them kind of see what it might be like, peek behind that curtain, and then choose their own direction, right?
Yeah, it's not hard. I mean, you don't have to, it doesn't have to be anything fancy. It's not like you have to send them away to, university for 6 years or anything like that.
True.
Just start with small, simple things that they can do to see if it's something that they're interested in. If there's an opening at another restaurant, have them cover a vacation at another restaurant just to get a different perspective, or have them work a different shift, or have them work, if they're normally working as a cashier, have them work in the back of the house. Uh, have them try new things and, get a fuller perspective of what being a manager might be. So it's not a terribly challenging part of it. Just open up their world a little bit more.
I love it. And you're getting them a more robust appreciation of the entire restaurant, right? I mean,
Mhm.
it's a lot easier to be less frustrated with back of house when you've worked back of house during rush hour, right? I mean,
Yes.
you've got to
Yes.
be able to see these items, get a little more empathy perhaps, and kind of play through it. Changing gears on you, you bring up TipHaus and tip side of things. And I love the idea of like tip structures are something that people often put a lot of thought to. I know when we were first rolling out with Ivers, of course, we were putting a ton of thought into the QSR side and how we can make sure everything rolls smoothly. Do you have plans to review or update tip structures? What factors into those decisions? How often are you kind of reviewing those tip structures that you rolled out across the restaurants?
As far as I know, no. When anybody joins Ivers, they get electronically, they get the tip structure for their specific division. It's something that we have to provide them by law. They can be kind of complicated and they're kind of long. And I'm the one who writes them. So I'm the one who types up everything. And none of the directors have given me anything for 2026 yet. So, and it's 6 weeks away. So as far as I know, nothing is changing. And I know I've heard a lot out there in the universe of things of, companies that have been changing their tip structure, or, going from one set of rules to, to a tip pool or whatever. But here at Ivers, it's been the same for several years now. So as far as I know, nothing is planning to change for 2026. Everything that we have has been working really well. The employees have been very happy with it. So we're
Yeah.
sticking with what we have. So
Don't rock the boat, right? If things
exactly.
are, yeah. And it sounds like a lot of thought, and I know actually personally a lot of thought went into it up front. And as tuned in as you all seem to be with your employees, that does not necessarily surprise me that you kind of hit a home run early on with it. So I
Well,
love.
no, I wouldn't say that. Well, I'll
Oh,
tell you
let's
this.
hear it.
When we first signed up with TipHaus for quick service,
Uh-huh.
I think we went through like, I don't know, 10 different
Oh yeah,
changes. Their director of operations was like, no, let's try this. No, this, no, this, no, this. And so I think I changed it at least 10 times. And our rep, shout out to John Evans, he
absolutely.
was so like understanding, like, sorry, John, here's another one. Here's another one. He was so understanding because I kept sending him something, I swear, every other day. But once we got that 10th one,
There you go.
it stuck. So
So you instead of waiting and adjusting quarterly, right? You did it all in the first few
we
weeks.
got them all.
Yep.
Yeah, we got them all out of the way. Yeah,
Exactly. You took a
exactly.
few years worth of adjustments and said, "Nah, John's ready to tackle this." So
Yeah.
I love it, man. Tell me, Patrick, you've been in the industry for a long time. You've been with Ivers for a long time, and therefore, there's a lot of people that look to the success of Ivers and would love to emulate that someday, right? They've got a small restaurant group that they're hoping to expand. If you had one piece of advice that you wanted to give to other operators, it can be about hiring, training, retention, or anything else if there's something you'd like to bring up with it. But what's that one piece of advice you'd give to those aspiring operators?
I would say the best piece of advice that I could give to anybody would be to join an organization called Chart. Chart is an organization. It stands for the Council of Hotel and Restaurant Trainers. It is a national organization of hospitality trainers across the country, of people who, yes, we focus on training when it comes to hospitality, both hotels and restaurants. But when we get together, or even virtually or in person,
Uh-huh.
we do focus on training. That is our bread and butter. But we talk about everything. I mean, recruiting, salaries, hiring. Sometimes we talk about fryer oil. Where are you getting your fryer oil? Because we can't find any. We talk about everything when it comes to the industry, and it's such an amazing organization. I have been with it for 23 years now, and I can honestly say that everything good that has happened to me professionally in 23 years, and many of the things, that have benefited Ivers over the last 23 years, can be tied directly back to Chart.
I think that's exceptional. So check out chart.org if you're listening. That sounds incredible. And I've not heard of that group, nor have we gotten that on the podcast as a recommendation.
Woohoo!
So yeah, that's a major little tidbit that we got now thrown into this. So thank you for sharing. Um, Patrick, we're going to move to the 4 questions that I will ask every one of my guests. I love doing a cross section where everyone gets the same question. We can compare answers with it. So, first and foremost is always going to be, tell me, what is your favorite restaurant concept or brand? It can be either, cannot be Ivar's, unfortunately. So, I'll throw that caveat in there right now. But what is your favorite and what's it doing to stand out to you?
Okay, so I'm going to pick a restaurant here in the Western Washington
Uh-huh.
area called Taco Time.
Oh, yeah.
Taco Time is a lot like Ivar's. It's a Northwest company
Mhm.
based here in Western Washington. Taco Time Northwest, I guess I should say, the version over here in the western side of the state. They also use fresh ingredients like we do at Ivar's. I like going to the restaurant. I like that I like the food. I
Yeah.
like that it's fresh. I like that it's consistent. It's not fancy by any stretch of the imagination, but it's consistent and it's good. And I feel like I get a great value for the money that I spend there.
I
So
agree.
Taco Time it is.
Before I moved to Seattle, I was from Texas, and Taco Time, I was converted, right? It was something I
Oh,
in it. I heard of a Taco Time place. I was super excited. When I had it for the first time, it caught me off guard, and I wanted to bluntly, like I wanted to not like it. That's not what I was thinking of tacos from Texas. And I will say I couldn't agree more. Like, they're not trying to be more than they are. They're super
right.
consistent. They're clean. They're
Mhm.
respectful. They're great groups. Value is
Yeah.
there, and yeah, as much as it's going to kill my Texan heart to say a little bit, they definitely won me over. I visited more
Yeah.
often than I should. Switching it up, I love a 2-part question, but I'll ask it in the same vein here. I want to know about the challenges that you see from your view facing restaurants, and so this is always going to be, what challenge do you think is the greatest challenge facing restaurants today? And then if you put on, some foresight glasses and looked a little bit into the future, what do you think is going to be facing restaurants 3 or more years from now that we may or may not be thinking of?
Well, today, obviously, I think one of the things that's very challenging is the cost of everything,
Sure.
the cost of ingredients, the cost of labor, the
Uh-huh.
cost of supplies, equipment, cost of leasing. Sometimes I see the lease costs
Uh-huh.
we look at spaces and they're like, you want how much for it? And it's very expensive to open and operate a restaurant these days, and which makes it hard to provide value to your guests when you are squeezed so much. And so it's just very challenging in especially in Seattle to value experience for your guests. And so you just have to be very creative and do your best, especially when you have a premium product like fish. Seafood is not,
Yeah.
it's not noodles.
Yep.
A little bit more expensive than buying noodles. Yeah. And so when you have a product like that we do, that is, can be upwards of, 7, 8, 9, 10, $27 a pound or whatever. It's just, you have to be very careful with everything so that you can still create something that your guests will feel like is worth it. And then in terms of the future, and this is more about one segment, I guess, not concerned. I'm more curious. I think we'll figure it out with quick service and fast casual. What does the future hold for fine dining
Mm,
is what I think about. I mean, as hard as it is to figure out value for quick service, it's 10 times harder for
sure.
fine dining. And what is that going to look like in the future? I mean, fine dining was already hit hard by the pandemic. It was hit hard by, work from home. There's
Yep.
just not as many, a lot of fine dining restaurants are in the downtown areas and there just not as many people downtown anymore. There's just not as many people doing banquets and big parties anymore. And also, yes, delivery has come along and been a big boom for quick service. I don't Delivery is not translating into a big boom for fine dining.
Sure.
People are not like, that's not why they're going to DoorDash to get, $100 steak.
Absolutely.
So I think there will be a renaissance for fine dining, but I don't know what it looks like. And so I'm more curious than concerned, but I can't picture it in my head what that will be. Will it be like a Dave and Buster's type thing, like activities? Will they get smaller? Will they just focus on luxury and go grander? I don't know what the answer is going to be, but I'm curious how that will end up because I think in 3 to 5 years, fine dining is going to have to be different. It can't just keep going the path that it's going. But I'm not sure what form that will take.
I very much agree with that, right? And it's the idea fine dining must keep that hospitable touch, right? Into your, I'm not
Mhm.
ordering steak tartare from Uber Eats and expecting it to go out,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So it's
yeah.
something you've really got to pay attention to. And similarly, I won't pretend to have the answers. It's something with hopefully not morbid curiosity, just curiosity we'll get to watch play out. But, fine dining definitely has a place, but it certainly, it's more limited and their opportunities are fewer and they have to execute really well. So, we shall watch together here, Patrick, as we go along with it. Um, Next question for you, and this is another two-parter because I like to make it complicated for all of my guests on the podcast. But tell me, two industry trends that you're seeing today, and one that you believe in or that you think Ivers will embrace or is already in the process of embracing. And then one you say, no, I don't think that's a trend. I think that's a fad, and we're going to let that one pass us by and hopefully not have any regrets about it.
One that I'm intrigued by, well, I guess we call it smaller, tighter menus. I see new places pop up from time to time and I go look at their menu and I'm like, where's the rest of it? And I'm like, oh, just the 5 items then. It's intriguing. At first it seems very like limited, but I guess they're focusing on those items and you think about it, well, it's less waste and better food cost. Certainly easier to train. Think back to like Cheesecake Factory menu, which is like, as big as a house. And those days might have passed us by. It is intriguing to think about and having a more limited menu with limited products and focusing on what's, really selling to your guests and you can be quicker about things and especially in an era when sometimes it's harder to find certain ingredients. So yeah, I'm intrigued on that one. That might be something we embrace. I don't know if we'll ever get down to 5 items,
Sure.
but that would be something that I could see us doing. I could see us making our menus maybe a little bit smaller. And then the thing that I would say to not embrace would be the robots. I don't
Hmm.
get the robot. They just make me laugh. Can't imagine us ever having a robot. Maybe we will, but
Sure.
I just don't see it. I don't see that happening at Ivers. Yeah, every time I see them, I can't stop laughing. That is literally replacing humans with technology, and I don't think that's part of who we are. So,
I think that's a great answer. We've heard a little bit on the robotics front, but I'll tell the story of my local convenience store right down the road that I'll go to for a Red Bull or for something if I need. They have a robot that's a cleaning thing, and it has a little face on it, and it smiles, but it has sensors obviously because as you get near it, it will alarm at you and please excuse while I clean near you, and it's just kind of following people around the store. It's hilarious to see, but I imagine the same of a server carrying a tray or guests in a restaurant that are trying to have a serious conversation, and that's happening around them, right? A kind of antithesis of hospitality, let's say. They try. It's a cute face at least on it, but it's certainly an interesting look. Final question that I will ask for
okay.
everyone here. Um, We've chatted on challenges that restaurants are facing. What do you think the opportunity operators should be leaning into? Challenges typically come with at least an opportunity on the back end. What do you see in there?
I would just go back to what we said before, which is take care of your employees.
Sure.
Talk to your employees. Your employees are the most important thing that you have. They're the greatest source of information. Go back to your employees with anytime before you install any piece of equipment, uh, uh, thinking about getting a new POS, ask your employees, because many of them have worked at many different restaurants, and you can be like, hey, we're trying this new POS system. What do you think of it? And they will be, please be brutally honest. They can tell you about all the bad things that, because they used it at this restaurant or that restaurant or whatever. They can tell you about what's working with coupons, what's working with loyalty programs. They tell you what's selling. They can tell you, the kind of feedback that maybe you're not necessarily hearing from the guests on your guest surveys, the eye rolls or the, the stares or the questions that you're not necessarily getting. Have those conversations with your employees. Talk to your employees. They are great sources of information. And if you have those conversations with them, not just those kind of conversations with them, but ask them what their problems are, what their obstacles are, how you can help them, what tools that they need. Ask them what benefits they're most interested in. That's like one of the things we started offering pet insurance, because we went out and we were asking our employees, what benefits are you most interested in? And pet insurance was the one that we heard most often. So yeah, have those conversations with your employees. They are your most valuable resource. And I can't stress enough how much we've learned and how much we've grown and how much better we are because of the conversations we've had with our employees.
And because you're not just asking for a sales report, right? There's
right, exactly, exactly.
I think that's it, man. Letting them have the room to have the conversations. I love it. And with that, Patrick, I cannot thank you enough for joining us today. I really
Thank you. It's been a lot of fun.
Of course. No, I'd love to have you back on. I cannot thank you enough. And I hope to see you at an Ivar's here soon. We're major fans and frequenters here in TipHaus. So I'm looking forward to it. And thank you again.
Thank you. And we are fans of TipHaus as well, as you know.
Appreciate you.
Thanks for listening to Tipped Off, the podcast for the service industry. For more tools and insights, visit TipHaus.com.